Jack, thank you very much for agreeing to do this interview today, and maybe I'll take that away from you now.
Yeah.
And can you just tell us when you were born?
8/11/17.
Yes, and where was that?
Inkman Road, Caulfield.
Yes. Now, can we move forward now to when you joined the AIF? Had you been in the militia before the war?
No.
No. So when you joined up, what did you do?
I joined up at Caulfield, Caulfield, I think it's a town hall.
Yes. And what unit were you posted to initially?
2nd 8th.
Was that a battalion, an infantry battalion?
Infantry, yeah.
Yes.
And we trained at Caulfield Racecourse, would that be?
That'd be right, yeah.
Yes.
And when did you transfer into the workshops?
Well, I think we went to one of the beach. God, I'm sorry, this is a...
Don't worry, no, that doesn't matter. I'm just going to stop the camera for a moment, and I'm just going to... Sorry for that interruption, Jack, but maybe we could move on. And do you remember how you moved to Singapore? What vessel did you travel on?
Well, we went on the Queen Mary.
Yes.
8th Division.
And what date did you go up there?
I think it was August. I know it was the wrong ship for shipping women because it was built for a hot climate. And they had the cabins they had them 3-plied over the walls, I suppose, to preserve the boat, you know.
Yes.
And she's on the Queen. We left Sydney, and we had quite a good time. And she made one stop before Singapore.
At Fremantle, was it?
Oh, probably was Fremantle, yeah. And when we got to Singapore, what did we do then? We went to Naval Base, yes. I'm sure we went to Naval Base. And then, from Naval Base, I think we went up to Malacca. That's in
Malaya.
And we were in training there.
And what training did a workshop do?
Well, I'm just trying to think how we got when we went back to Singapore. That would be on perhaps that screed that Diane's son Alistair.
Well, that doesn't. It's not that important. But do you remember crossing the causeway, going back onto Singapore?
Oh, I know the causeway. Yeah, I know the causeway. Yeah.
Do you remember the day that capitulation took place? Do you remember the day, the 15th of February 1942, when capitulation took place?
1942. Yeah. Well, that's. 42, 44, 45. That's when we, well, that's when we got on the Mary in February 42. No, wait, no, that's, well, we were at Malacca, I remember that. Now that's up north in Malaya.
No, I know where it is, yes.
No, I'm sorry.
No. Well, I'll take it. We'll move forward, and we'll go to. Do you remember after you became prisoners of war, and when you were chosen to be a member of F Force?
Yeah.
and you took the train journey from Singapore up to Ban Pong.
Ban Pong, yeah.
And you were on train number 6.
Yep, number 139. I always remember
that. Was your number. And do you remember who was Bruce Hunt with that train? Major Bruce Hunt, the doctor?
Well, I think he was, because it seemed to be there in my mind, like when we got up to Ban Pong.
Can I just ask you now, when you got off the train and you started walking, do you remember going through Kanchanaburi or Canberra? Do you remember being at Canberra?
Look, it's a difficult one.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Well, you do remember the march.
I don't say I do, yeah.
Can you tell me anything in particular that's in your mind about the march up?
Well, just that it was unbelievable, but you know, the rain and the food, slag rice if you got any was slag, and just how wonderful to me, and that we helped each other. I remember that. We had the packs, and there's a lot that I was fortunate. I rather did all right, I think, till we got to Ban Pong, and then I can't remember now Ban Pong where we went from there. I was Songkurai.
Yes, so you marched up as far as Songkurai, and that took nearly what? It took you more than 2 weeks to march up there,
yeah,
didn't
how
it?
about time?
Yeah. Did your clothing start deteriorating? Did you throw anything away?
Yes, well, most of it got sort of shockingly wet, and I think there was a lot of diarrhea and all that sort of thing.
What about your boots? Did you?
Well, no, I was lucky with the boots. Mine are all right.
They lasted you all the way through, did they?
Yeah.
So when you got up to the Songkurai area, what work were the Japs forcing you to do?
Well, we were put in the groups, and each day from the area we were, the Japs would come in. That's right, because say go to Major Hunt and say work party 100 men, 100 men, 100 men, 100 reverse, and say, well, no 100, no 100, sick men, no sick men, no. So you go back, he said, how many men?
No Bioki.
So I can always remember him getting belted a bit, because in one stage he had to send not the complete 100, but quite a large number, but they were useless, you know, they couldn't work. That was Hunt, yeah. And
do you remember the other 2 doctors, the Carls? Lloyd Carl and Frank Carl?
Frank Carl, yes. Yes. They,
do you remember anything about him? About his appearance?
No, it doesn't come to me.
Yeah.
But I'll ask you if I might remember that on when I did one for my grandson.
Yes, yeah. That's right.
Fagan was another man up there.
Yes.
And Lieutenant Colonel White, Glenn White.
Yeah, well, Glenn White never left Singapore. Glenn White was an outstanding man, as you quite rightly say.
Now, wait on, Colonel Glenn White. There's somewhere I struck him, because I was more or less saw him getting, I'm sure it was him getting belted by a Korean guard, because the Korean guards for working for the Japs, you know. I only have... When did you say again White was?
He never left Singapore. He stayed in Singapore the whole time.
Well, that must be another time.
Yes, yeah.
Because I was a runner for one of the groups, and you had to, they had the guards all the way along, and if you didn't salute them, and he wasn't saluted, so he called them back and bashed them up. Anyhow, that's...
Do you remember...
Sorry about this.
That's all right. Do you remember whether Glenn White was a short man or a tall man?
A what?
Do you remember whether Glenn White was a short man or a
short man?
Yes, he was. Yeah,
oh, yeah.
He
And
was very
guts.
short. Yeah.
Plenty of guts.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Now let's talk about what were you doing when you first injured your leg? When you had the first injury to your leg, what were you doing?
Well, like a parang, like, you know, what they use. I think I hobbled around and Buck said, you better sit down or something. And the Japs came, and when we had to march back to the camp, I had to hobble there, I remember. I made it, but that's about all. And then I was on the slats. I can remember being on the slats, which is shocking, you know, like it's for toilet, like and everything, and made a mess, and they do like here you have the what do you call them, pots, you know,
Bedpan.
Or what they made bedpans out was a bamboo wide one, put the ends on, and that, you know.
Yeah.
Couldn't think of anything worse. That's one of the bad things.
So we
were cramped. We were cramped on the slats.
Yes.
And I can remember the orderlies, if you like to call them that used to help us. They were wonderful, you know.
Yes. Do you remember any of them by name?
Not now, no.
No. And were they Aussies or were they
A lot of
Brits?
English.
Yeah.
A lot of English. But I can remember we used to have bets on who's going to die next, you know, like you'd more or less cramp together and say, right, this bloke, Charlie, you're I'll bet whatever I could have to make it.
Now, did a tree fall on your leg or what?
As it came down.
Yes.
Yeah, like that's the tree there.
Yes.
It just came down and across here.
Yes.
Or across back that area.
Yeah. So it was down on your lower leg.
No, it was about, I reckon it was about here it started.
Yes, I'll just come down here.
And
Show me. Would you show me where it happened? Yeah.
it started about here was a wound, I think.
Yes, yeah.
And then the ulcer started and she crept and
Yes.
crept.
Yeah, so...
And of course what saved me was the maggots.
Yes.
Well, that caused that ate most of the muck away. And then what's the other one? There's another.
Well, the fish.
Like a maggot. And like a maggot, they got into it too. And then they just ate it away and got into the, I think, the bone up here. I think it was right up here.
So who was, in the early stages of your injury, was there a doctor looking after you, an Australian or a British doctor looking after you early?
No, I can't think of it.
No. Well, when was the first time when was your first contact with Lieutenant Colonel Huston?
The first time I sat in the slats in the aisleway, you know, just the aisleway that men along on the slats here. And he saw the state of the leg, and just made the decision that sorry, I have to take that leg off.
And how far was it? The ulcer. How far had the ulcer gone past your kneecap at the time? Was it?
It passed the kneecap, yes. Eventually, yes.
Yes, yeah. And